Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Eating While Broke. I'm your host, Coline Witt, and today we have very special guest, former UCLA quarterback and name, image, and likeness athlete of the year. Chase Griffin is in the building.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. This is a very unique, you're a very unique guest, so I'm very honored to have you here. We don't get a lot of athletes.
Okay.
And we definitely don't get a lot of athletes with a resume like yours.
All right. I appreciate that. No,
yeah.
I'm glad to be here. I'm cooking some good food.
Yes, yes. So before we get into your whole story of who you are, can you tell me what you're gonna have me eating today?
Absolutely. So today we're gonna make some spaghetti and turkey meatballs.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking with my mother when I was figuring out what I wanted to cook, and she was like, "You've loved spaghetti your whole life." And in fact, she sent me a picture where it was a school assignment, probably like first or second grade, and I was talking about how much I love spaghetti and meatballs.
Do you still? When was like the last time you ate this dish?
Probably last week.
That's hilarious. So you're really now when you sent the dish over, you were talking about making the meatballs from scratch, and of course, guys, I didn't even want to be a hater. I just was a hater only because I was just like, I didn't know if you could handle that much cooking and talking, but I really wanted to learn from you.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
either way,
But
it's good.
I did the store bought, so
It'll be good. It'll be
really
good.
because I wanted to hear your story. All right, go ahead and you can start whipping up these turkey meatballs. And is there a reason why it's turkey, by the way?
Yeah, I didn't really grow up eating pork.
Okay.
But yeah, beef meatballs are good too.
Yeah.
But turkey was always sort of the go-to.
Yeah. And I did learn, and I didn't look at this bag, but what I've noticed with a lot of groceries now, because I don't eat pork or beef really, is that they be having a lot of hidden ingredients in the fine print. It'll say like turkey meatballs, but then it'll be like put some pork meat in the very, very tiny print, you know?
Yeah.
So I didn't check our bag, but hopefully we're good, okay? It said turkey.
It's all good. It's not the end of the world.
And then, so go ahead, take me back to, I want to say 5-year-old you.
Okay, yeah. At that time, I was living in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I was born actually at UCLA Santa Monica Hospital. So going back to UCLA was like a homecoming for me.
Okay.
My parents didn't want me growing up in LA, so I had moved to Austin, really Round Rock, when I was 4.
Okay.
At that time, I just started playing violin, and I just started playing soccer, which is still probably my favorite sport to watch nowadays.
Soccer.
Yeah.
But you ended up playing football.
Definitely, the other football. But I think I always had a lot of energy as a kid. Even in soccer, I was really aggressive, and I liked, that aggressive, violent nature of football. And that was one thing about me. Even though I wasn't always the biggest player, I could always take a hit. And football has opened a lot of doors for me. I'm always grateful for it.
You have siblings?
Yes, I'm the oldest of 3.
So, you're the oldest?
Yeah. So at the time when I was 5, it was just my sister and I. She's 2 years younger than me. She's a senior at Stanford right now. Shout out Rose.
Your
Super proud of her.
Did their thing.
Yeah, no,
What's up with the little brother?
They weren't
He's got
playing.
a hard.
He's only 11, so he's got all the upside in the world, and now he got 2 extra helpers and my sister. And
I like how you position that, but as a youngin, that's your siblings. Did you watch the Wayne's interview?
Yeah, so
Like your older siblings have a huge impact.
100%.
You know.
I think that's always sort of informed how I've seen my trajectory. Like, not only how does it affect me and, God willing, my future family, but how does it affect the immediate younger siblings?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to keep the pasta.
He has big shoes. Whatever you don't do that one. Put plastic on the stove.
Don't do that.
So the meatballs, I read the package for you just in case. They said just put water in the bottom of the pot. I put a bottle of water over there, and I don't know. I guess they turned brown. I haven't made these. I'm trusting you to feed us today.
Yeah, no, that'd be good. They just gotta. as long as they cooked.
Yeah, that's all that matters. I feel like they're pre-cooked. You're just heating them.
They definitely are. You just got to heat them up.
So you go back to the violin, because where does this enter in the scene where you're playing the violin? Can you currently play the violin?
I still can. I'm a little rusty. I can't play the way I could when I was growing up.
Okay.
And that's because I was playing every day. Like as a child, I was practicing all the time. And then in middle school, I played, in the Strings Project, which was University of Texas Talent Development Program. And then my chamber orchestra at my middle school, I would say was one of the best chamber orchestras in all the public schools in Austin. But I've always loved music. I was even going back last night listening to some of the stuff I was listening to when I was like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. Like, I remember there's a song called Hell Yeah by Jay-Z and Dead Prez that I really loved.
And you could play that on the violin?
No, but I could still rap it word for word.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But I've just always had a love for music.
Yeah.
I'd say even more than sport. That music is the thing that I love. And now I produce music. So, in my spare time, whenever I'm not working on finance or not working in media, that's where I enjoy spending my time. It's both, productive and it's good for the mental. It's a creative space.
When you were younger, did you know that was there a particular field of interest that you felt like you were going to lean towards when you got older?
Yeah, I wanted to go to the NFL. I think the main thing was I was raised in a household of love and household where like potential was celebrated. So I never really felt like I didn't have the ability to be excellent in anything that I put my mind to. My passion was sports, and I liked violin. I prefer music production, so I would say my main passion was sports, but school always came first.
Okay.
That was always the thing. I wanted to make sure, even if I didn't get the offer I wanted coming out of high school or anything like that, I'd be able to get into any school and walk on. Thankfully, I was a good enough player where that didn't have to be the case.
But you were a straight A student in school?
Oh, yeah. No debating that.
So take me back to your parents. What kind of home environment,
Definitely.
gets a UCLA and a Stanford kid?
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I was blessed to have both my parents very present in my life. And I never doubted that I was loved. I never doubted that if I put my mind towards something, I couldn't grow in that. We grew up middle class in Texas, and I will say, like, I think I had more privilege than some of my friends, especially at my high school. And that's always stuck with me because I understand with platform and with the things you're blessed with, it's a blessing to be a blessing to others. So whether it was, giving rides or just spending time, now it's really about sharing perspective with my friends. I've been blessed with a wealth of knowledge through experience, I think, for a 24-year-old. And wherever I can help provide either opportunity or guidance, that's always big to me to be able to do that.
Were your parents strict on who you could be friends with?
I think it was more so, I think they trusted my discernment. I think when you're raised the way that I was raised, you just learn to go where you're loved or go to where you feel, at home. And for me, I think something good about me is I do see the good in everyone. Like, I'm a Christian first. And so
I could tell when you used the word discernment, like it was just a regular word.
Yeah. Well, I can't look at anyone and not see them as, a brother or sister, So as far as staying away from certain things, definitely. But as far as staying away from people, like avoiding people, I've never felt the need to do that, and I understand, like, depending on your self-confidence or depending on your ability to stay strong in that, you have to behave a different way. But for me, I always feel pretty secure and committed to remaining myself, no matter the environment.
Okay. What did your parents do for work?
So my father, he's a consultant. He's worked in the media space. He's been an entrepreneur. And then my mother's a teacher. She teaches first grade at the school where my brother goes. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It was funny.
I feel like your brother.
No, he loves it. He loves it.
I
You know,
feel for your brother. Your brother is gonna be strong.
yeah, no, I'm really so excited for him.
You say he's 11?
Yeah, he's 5th grade.
That's a big age gap. Your parents were like,
Yeah,
let's just try one more.
I'm not even sure what their thought process was on that, but
That's a big age gap. You were like
Yeah.
a full teenager. Were you excited when you heard you were gonna have a little baby?
I think I was in shock. I had to sit down. Yeah.
You like,
Well,
come again?
well, you know, like for the longest, it was just my sister and I, and you know that's sort of the identity. Like it's me and Rose, me and Rose, me and Rose. But you know, I had always prayed for a brother. Funny enough, but you know, it's on God's time and not mine.
That's
So I'm gonna strain this.
if that's a lot of water, you could scoop it out. Maybe
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it should be okay.
this is what happens when you have a set with no sink. You gotta kind of make it do what it do.
Yeah, as long as the plastic don't melt.
I don't think so.
Nah, it'll be all right.
You're doing good. So I had a feeling that there was an entrepreneur in there because the
100%.
whole mindset of I can do anything I set my mind to sounds like complete typical delusional entrepreneur. That's how you have to be.
I remember I was looking at an interview. Was it Busta Rhymes? He's like, it's not delusional if it happens. But that's very true. You know, they've always.
But you know what? The world sees you as delusional until it happens. But I think every entrepreneur has to be the signature ingredient of being an entrepreneur is you just have to be the biggest dreamer, and you really do have to look past your environment, right?
Yeah.
You're creating a world that no one has seen before.
100%. I mean, the part of creativity and the most beautiful part of it is two-sided. Like there's really nothing original. There's nothing new under the sun. But at the same time, there's always going to be innovation. That's what makes people. We come from a creator, so we have the ability to create. It's part of the reason why I love music so much.
You don't speak like a 24-year-old. I'm sorry. I just don't.
I
know that sounds. I don't know if people tell you that, but you just seem well beyond your years. Your parents could teach a parenting class.
Yeah, no, they're the best parents in the world. You know, I think. I mean, we'll see how each one of us turns out. But I'd say
right
now,
it's looking good.
To date, they're excellent, and you know, I'll always be grateful for the household I was raised in.
Yeah. To the point where your mom could send you a 5-year-old picture of
Me
your
loving
favorite
pasta.
dish. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, no.
So your parents are still in Texas?
Yes, they're still there. They'll probably raise my brother there. I'm not sure. I mean, my sister, she's moving down. She's about to graduate, and so she's moving down to Los Angeles. Okay. And we'll see if my parents make a migration out here.
Yeah, because now 2 of their kids are out here, right?
Exactly. So we'll see. And you know, they've lived here before. You know, both my sister and I were both born here.
Do you think the chance is high because they like to be by you guys?
I think so, but I definitely think for raising Gage, you know, my little brother, I definitely think, you know, it would make sense to stay in Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah. They know how to raise a child in Texas. There's some different elements out here.
I feel like LA,
Los Angeles.
Yeah. I feel like
100%.
Texas is definitely better, homely, family.
I'm always grateful that I came from where I came from, that I was raised. You know, a little bit country, you know, but it's quiet and you know, I really. You were talking about not getting in the wrong crowd and all that. There's enough space for where you can really choose, you know, who you spend time around. Sometimes in cities, you sort of get, you know, mixed up into it, and it's harder to avoid certain realities.
Okay. Well, now that I kind of got a good idea that you grew up in a very good environment, I love hearing that.
Yeah.
Let's get into, you decide that you, from a youngin', that you want to get into the NFL.
100%.
So you start pursuing this path. I'm guessing with parents like yours, they were like, heck yeah, you're going to be in the NFL.
If we're going to do it, we're going to do it big. That's sort of regardless of what it is. And, you know, that really applies to every part of my life. And it's why I think I'm not, like, extremely attached to, you know, any one thing. It's more about just continuing to be my best self in whatever it is the opportunity is.
So you graduate high school. The first school you get into, you choose UCLA?
Yeah, so my first offer was actually Yale. And the way I got that offer was crazy. I was at a camp called QB Collective, and it was put on by a guy named Richmond Flowers. And he's one of the best agents when it comes to NFL coaches. And so all of the coaches at the camp were NFL coaches. Yeah. At the time, there was I think he was an analyst or maybe a pass game coordinator, but his name was Mike McDaniel. Mm-hmm. Mike McDaniel went to Yale, saw me there, and felt like I was one of the best quarterbacks at the camp. They all had assumed, based off my performance, I had a whole bunch of offers. This was coming after my sophomore year. I'd thrown for 3,000 yards. I was one of the best sophomores in Texas. And they assumed I had a bunch of offers. So they were like, where do you have offers from? I said, I have 0 offers. Now, I was probably 5'6", 5'7" at the time. Not ideal for a quarterback, but regardless,
but you were
I was balling.
10th grade, right?
Exactly.
So they didn't care.
They just
wait, in 10th grade they were asking where your offers were?
Well, in football, there's kids with offers 7th, 8th grade, and it's probably getting earlier and earlier as training gets better. But so they were asking.
You were in a camp. So did your parents pay for the camp, or how did that work?
Yeah, so we were invited. I forgot how we got connected. My father's always been so good as far as, going back to, if we're gonna do something, we're gonna do it the right way.
I love your parents.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm big fans. But when it comes to how you do things, you have to seek out expertise. Mm-hmm. And he had heard about this camp. He had seen this camp, and so we had reached out, got connected with Richmond, and then Richmond did some research on me and was like, yeah, come out. Well, anyways, Mike McDaniel, who's now head coach of the Miami Dolphins. Okay. He's a Yale alum, and he called up the head coach at Yale and said, I want you to pull up this guy's film. Pulled up the film, offered me that day. So that was how I got my first offer. And then after that...
What did your parents say?
Oh, we were turned.
I would have been beyond turned. I would have had billboards.
Now, it's always been, I think, a dream of my father to have one of us go to Harvard.
Yeah, that's my dream school.
So when Yale was the first offer, he was ecstatic. But I'm sure, yeah, exactly. What's up with Harvard? And down the line, Harvard definitely became a viable option. Uh-huh. I was actually gonna go the week that I committed to UCLA. Uh-huh. I think I went to UCLA on a Tuesday. I was supposed to go to Harvard on Friday, and if Harvard would have offered me that Friday, I might have committed. But UCLA got to me first, and I committed on the spot. And
what did your dad say when he found out on Friday that Harvard?
I think I think part of good parenting is you have to realize now if it was Harvard and then some other university that wasn't prestigious or something like that, I think he would have stepped in and been like, hey, let's think about it.
Yeah, of course.
But UCLA, when it comes to its Black history, as far as Jackie Joyner Kersee, Jackie Robinson, Ralph Bunch, like there's just so many folks who've changed the world who've come through there and been athletes. And then on the school side, #1 ranked public institution in the country. Mm-hmm. It's in Los Angeles. It's beautiful. The weather's always good. Mm-hmm. And there's just so many factors to where I think...
Yeah, Boston would have been a little chilly.
Oh, it would have been... the permafrost for 6 months.
I know your parents are so proud. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I hate to... We're going to have to do you know what? You could play this for them. You know what I'm saying? You could say, go listen to the episode. They're going to be they'll probably cry a little bit.
I'm always very appreciative, man. Like my father, he's always... dream big for his family. I think, whether he acknowledges it or not, I really respect him for the transformation he's done. And it's all about building upon others' work. Like my Gigi, my father's mother, did a lot of work to make sure that her 2 kids, went to college and went on to be successful.
Did he come from a 2-parent household?
No, he did not.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's done a lot of work to progress his family, and God willing, I'm able to do the same thing when it's my time. I think right now it's about building my foundation. My sister is going to we'll live together starting in June, since we'll both be working.
I was going to ask you that. I was like, are you guys going to end up roommating?
Yeah, we are. So I couldn't, choose a better roommate. We shared a bathroom growing up, so we know how to do it.
Yeah.
But
I always wanted to live with my siblings when I got older. It never happened though. Yeah, we never roommated. All right, so you choose UCLA. Now let's get into the gritties. NIL is in effect.
Yeah, in 21. Mm-hmm. So.
What year did you go?
I got to UCLA in 2019.
Okay.
And that recruitment process was really, there were a lot of ups and downs, and it sort of taught me how to, just trust in my faith and continue producing well.
Can we talk about the ups and downs in detail?
Definitely. So, I got the early Ivy League offers, and then after that, UCLA was really my first Power 5 offer. Power 5, at the time there was the Pac-12, so it was the Big 5 conferences.
Can you break it down for
so there's
for the women?
Yeah. Well, just for the folks that don't know. All right,
yeah.
So there was the Pac-12 conference, the Big 10 conference, the Big 12 conference, the SEC, and the ACC. These were considered the Power 5 just because these schools had the most money, biggest media deals, and theoretically best players. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have any of these offers just because I'm 5'10", and as a quarterback, a lot of colleges won't even look at you if you're not a certain height, But, there were definitely schools that were interested. They were just waiting on the first Power 5. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't give them that chance. I'm like, well, if UCLA had the confidence and conviction to offer me, then I'm not going to wait on some other school that was waiting on them to offer me. That's not how it works. Mm-hmm. Plus, UCLA just had so many other factors. I think academically, if I was going to pass on Harvard, it had to be either UCLA or Stanford.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fine institutions out there, and maybe if NIL was around while I was coming out, I was the Gatorade Player of the Year of Texas. My senior year, there might have been a school in Texas, or there might have been a school in the South that might have had a $2 or $3 million NIL deal waiting for me, and that would have, that definitely would have factored into my decision.
Yeah.
But I think for the circumstances, once they offered, I was fine with going. But until then, there was a lot of waiting. The Ivy Leagues are amazing schools, mm-hmm. And the football they play is good. But I always knew. I was playing against guys who were committed to Oklahoma or committed to Florida or committed to Ohio State, and I was beating them. Mm-hmm. And I was outperforming other quarterbacks with 30, 40 offers, and I just knew that I should be playing at a school at this caliber when it comes to football, and that would provide me the best opportunity to go to the NFL. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So. You have, before we even get into that, you keep mentioning the 5'10".
Yeah.
Did that have any type of mental warfare in you at some point or different points?
So for me, I was blessed because I had school. So mm-hmm. football wasn't do or die. Mm-hmm. I knew if everything went to nothing, I would get into Harvard. Mm-hmm. I believed that in my mind, or get in anywhere.
Yeah.
So football wasn't do or die. It was the thing I loved the most. Mm-hmm. There was a disappointment though going to camps where I would go and the coach would be like, "Man, you're so good," or we love your film. I'd be out there, I wouldn't miss a throw the entire day. Mm-hmm. There would be 4 or 5 stars there, missing a few throws. I'm not missing. I would go an entire month of camps mm-hmm. without one incompletion, and it just showed it's not always all on merit.
Yeah,
and it's important to learn that. I think as a kid, it's important to do everything you can to have the best merit, but there's always other factors in play.
Yeah.
And for me, I think realizing that early and still not letting that stop me from reaching my goals, it was a test of faith. Okay. At that age, you don't have the perspective. Your dream is really all that powers you. And for me, I felt like my dream kept on getting deferred. Mm-hmm. But part of trusting in God is it's going to work out better than you even pictured it for yourself.
But you were having the conversations about the height.
100%.
Okay.
100%.
And I think that's totally relatable, but it's also inspiring.
Yeah. No, And I would always look at quarterbacks in the NFL who were outperforming guys who were 6'5". Like I would look at Drew Brees, who's an Austin kid. That's why Saints are still my team. And then Russell Wilson. Like these are guys who are either 6 foot or shorter than 6 foot, who are some of the best quarterbacks to ever play the position. I never knew what it was like to play 6'2". I only knew what it was to dominate at 5'9", 5'10". And so I never saw it as something that was hindering me.
Do you think that also made you play harder and better?
I never played with a chip on my shoulder because of the height. I just, honestly, I feel like I'm a pretty genuine guy or a pretty well-mannered guy. But when it comes to football, even as a little kid, like I enjoy beating other people. Like I enjoy keeping score. I enjoy winning, and I approach every aspect of my life like. I'm not measuring myself off other people. It's just like
I like that. You're competitive.
Yeah, 100%.
Competitive.
Like, why can I not be the best at this?
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. So so you're at UCLA. You're killing it.
Yeah.
But when I look at your bio, you have all these other goals, and the one thing I was talking to my producer with was, for someone that's clearly looking like they're going to the NFL, it seems like, you're talking about getting your doctorate. You're working on your master's right now, correct?
Yeah. So I have 2 masters from UCLA. So
I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, I'm finished with school, for now.
You have 2 masters already?
Yes.
So
yes.
What are they
So
in?
I have a master's in education. So I did that. It was a program that worked well with the football schedule. I got my undergrad in 2 years. So I got my undergrad in public affairs. So I still had 4 years of eligibility. So I had to be in school. So I wanted to make sure I did masters that, I wasn't just sitting in class for football's sake.
You did all your schooling in
6 years.
2, but
Yeah, all my undergrad in 2. Yeah.
How?
I came in with some units off
Okay.
AP tests, and then I also.
You're real smart.
My sister is the really, really smart one. That's why she got into Stanford straight up. But I know how to do school well.
And you know how to cook well. I've been watching you, and
I appreciate it. Yeah, you got to steam them, definitely.
I see.
I like a sear and steam.
I should have had you make the meatballs from scratch. I did not think you was going to be this good in the kitchen.
Oh, it's all good. I grew up with an amazing cook in the house with my mother. Whenever my father would make steaks, they'd be good too. He'd put a bunch of seasoning, a lot of Tony Chachere's in that.
You ever watch the videos online and they're making the steaks and the only thing they season it with is salt and pepper?
Yeah, I think that's more for health reasons. I understand, and definitely in our community, there's certain medical predispositions that we struggle with. So I do understand when people are vanilla with the seasoning.
Did you say vanilla with the seasoning?
Yeah, but speaking for myself, I definitely prepare. I mean,
I'm a seasoning
prefer
freak.
prefer
It's fine.
prefer a well seasoned meal.
You can just lay it
Yeah,
down.
good. There we go. So now I'm gonna add a little water.
You're about to do the sauce?
Yeah, we just.
Do you season the sauce?
Yeah. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna add the sauce in directly with the pasta.
Okay.
I noticed,
Are you a big sauce guy or like a little bit of sauce?
I like sauce.
I like sauce too.
Yeah.
Sometimes I meet people and they're like, "Why did you put so much sauce on it?" I'm like,
Yeah. No, I don't understand why. You can't add. Actually, this is what the Italians do. They add the actual pasta water back in with the pasta.
okay, so you're at UCLA. You're getting all these sponsorships. Are you pursuing them or are they pursuing you? Can you walk me through that?
Yeah. So I got my first sponsorship through LinkedIn. So any young professional, any young person, just make a LinkedIn. You never know what it'll lead to. You might meet the person who gives you your first job on there. For me, I met the person who gave me my first endorsement deal, a guy by the name of Rob Master, who at the time he was handling a lot of Unilever and therefore Degrees marketing.
You say Unilever?
Yeah. So Unilever works closely. They manage a lot of companies on the advertisement side, but namely Degree. And Degree had a campaign, which they ended up winning awards for, called the Breaking Limits campaign. And in this, we all told our story. For me, I told the story as far as, a lot of, quarterbacks my size being overlooked, but because of the caliber of player I was, we still were successful. We were still able to get there. I think that really catapulted my early career just because it showcased, there were folks who maybe thought I wasn't going to get, all the big deals or anything. Well, my first deal was a big deal. My first deal was a big deal with a categorical leader. And then early on, I also had Boost Mobile and Shell. So I already had, within my first 3 to 5 deals, I had 3, marquee brands. And I was able to also earn enough from those deals to also, tithe. Like, as a Christian, like, I wanted to give 10% of all of my money made and still want to continue that to organizations or to causes that I care about. At Hutto High School, a lot of my teammates and a lot of the community depended on the school to eat during the day. So they would either be on like free or reduced lunch or breakfast. And I wouldn't have been able to reach my goals without, my teammates or without my best friends in my high school. And so once I had money, I wanted to make sure that I was giving towards a cause that helped with that. So, in particular, my biggest partner to date has been the LA Regional Food Bank. Wow. And in particular, their program where they provide meals on the weekends to LAUSD school children who depend on free lunch.
They provide the school on the weekends?
They provide meals. That way, when they're not at school, they're also able to have sustenance.
Yeah, because I know LA has a lot of homeless kids.
Definitely. I think, in working, with the food bank and doing more research on how my foundation can help, I think you sort of see like hunger in children and homelessness in children are not things of the past. They're not things of, obviously it happens in other countries, but it happens in America. Yeah. It's a lot more common than people think. And I grew up, serving at our local serving center, and there we had a food bank. We had a food pantry. And I'm seeing, folks where maybe it was a teammate's mother or a friend's, mother and father, they're picking up food. And I'm just like, hey, and then I realized, oh my goodness, like my friend is relying on the serving center to eat. And, a lot of the time when you come from a household like mine where, I was blessed to have a mother who enjoyed cooking every night, you sort of, you don't realize that people, it's not a far away issue. Food insecurity is something that affects people that right now and that you care about right now.
Wow. Deep. When you got your first sponsorship deal and you started getting these sponsorship deals, how did you negotiate? Who played a hand?
Yeah.
Was it you?
It was really just my father and I. The whole way, really. I was self-repped. And I wanted to stay self-repped just because I felt like nobody could tell my story like mine. And I also enjoyed the process. I enjoyed, making first contact with a company. I enjoyed, going through the
making first
production.
Contact or them reaching out to you?
Either way.
You did both?
Either way.
Okay.
Sometimes I would be at an event and I'd be speaking, and a CMO would be there, the chief marketing officer, and they would be like, we really love your story. We really love how you're able to present a brand and present yourself. Let's find a way to work. Yeah. And, as a creative, as someone who loves music and loves film, I really enjoyed the creative process. Yeah. So in all of my 50 plus brand deals, for the vast majority of them, I was creating the creative, or I was working with their creative director to create it. And then I was creating a shot list in the interest of time where, initially my first shoots took 3-4 hours. It's like, no, if I spend 2 hours ahead of time working on a shot list, the shoot turns into an hour max. Wow. And it provides more, vision as far as for the final product with my videographer, editor of choice. Yeah, so I really found my
Where did you get the
process.
Media part of the background again?
My father, he's worked in media, and then
what does he do in media though?
On the production side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I think I've always loved movies. Like my town. Of course, we could go to downtown, but the nearest place that was sort of like my haven that I spent my time was the movie theater. So I would, we'd have our games on Friday night, and on Saturday I'd love to go to the movies. Sometimes I would go with friends, but honestly, I love going to the movies by myself.
Yeah.
I just love the actual movie. Yeah.
I do that.
Yeah. It's no. I sometimes I don't realize that a lot of people don't do that, but I've always enjoyed it, and I've always enjoyed movies. And so to be able to do productions and to, sort of world build in a way, with primarily the brand's key performance indicators in mind, I think, being able to create value out of art is one of the most beautiful and rewarding things.
So you have a degree in education. Yeah. Are we almost down to you sitting with me?
Yeah.
I know Katie's
absolutely.
probably like, let's get him on the other mic. Nobody likes the loud mics in production.
Really?
No one does.
Oh.
If you're an audio person,
Yeah.
the loud mics are like your enemy.
Yeah.
And then these mics are your friends.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll complain on the other side real quick. But all right, sorry about that. Didn't mean to derail you.
Oh, no worries.
So you're doing all these deals with brands.
Yes.
And this is in 2021. This is like 3 years
Started
into
21. Yep.
21, right?
Yep.
So this is becoming your actual revenue stream.
Yes. Yes.
And you're now running a business of your own.
100%.
And your dad is watching his son go to school and like have enough business to even tithe.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're starting to tithe
Yeah,
early on.
it was great, just because, I think definitely there's a perspective shift once you start making money.
What do you say that perspective shift is?
Well, I think there's a sort of confidence that comes from what I'm doing is creating value, not just for others, but also for me. And that's one of the best part about athletes being able to capture on the revenue they create. It's like we've been value creators forever. We just haven't been able to capture on the entire part of the value. Of course, we've been able to get to school, but there's just so much more. Frankly, if you're helping someone make money, I think you should, partake in a share of that revenue.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
We were barred from that, for a long time. And when I first got to UCLA, that's how things were. Now in 2021, one aspect changed a bit, name, image, and likeness, where we were able to do endorsements and things like that. But, this
what caused that change?
There were a slew of cases. So it was primarily on the legal side. One of the biggest heroes in the history of, I think, college athletic rights is Ed O'Bannon, a former Bruin Naismith Player of the Year, national champion. So shout out Ed O'Bannon. But he had sued the NCAA for utilizing his name, image, and likeness in the NCAA EA Sports basketball game. Okay. And so that's why they had to stop producing that game, because they weren't paying the athletes a fair share. Now they brought him back.
How old was he when he did that?
Was
he older, or
sure.
was
He wasn't fresh out of college.
Okay.
It was a little bit later, but
that was a bold move, yeah.
100%, and he was ostracized for it, even by the Bruin community. I know.
Wow.
It was really a shame. Now we've taken steps to welcome him back, but I still don't think he's received the glory that he deserves for the stand he took.
That literally changed the trajectory forever.
100%, and it changed my life.
And you still don't feel like he's being
every chance I get, I try to sing his praises. He's worked very hard. And,
have you ever met him or?
No, but there'll be a day and time for that. Absolutely.
So that was what the start of it, and then what happened after that?
So after that, there were a slew of other cases, most namely Alston versus NCAA, which in 2020, 2021 called into question the antitrust exemption that the NCAA has. The reason why the NCAA has been able to... Okay, got you.
Thanks.
The reason the NCAA has been able to act the way that it does is it's had antitrust exemption. So, policies that aren't really in accordance with other aspects of the American economy, they're able to operate, in their own sort of set of rules. That's how you have unpaid work, basically.
Yeah.
As far as the Alston versus NCAA case, it called into question that antitrust, and the NCAA saw the writing on the wall, and so they started rolling back their restrictions. You know, in 2021, they rolled back their restriction on athletes capitalizing on and exercising their name, image, and likeness rights. And then now, revenue share, because of House versus NCAA, there was a settlement where around $2.5 billion will be paid to athletes from 2020 and on. And then because of this settlement and because of this precedent, now athletes from revenue generating sports are going to be getting paid every single year.
But is there any for any of the previous?
So there's some back pay, and I'll definitely capitalize on that.
Cheers to you. Oh, you going to pray over it? You can pray over it. Pray for both of us.
Got you. Dear God, thank you for waking us up this morning, giving us this food. Please, Lord, let it be nourishment to our bodies. And thank you, Lord, for giving us this opportunity to, spread your platform in your son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Appreciate you.
I just saw King of Kings in the movie theater last night.
How was it?
It was good.
Yeah.
I don't know, because, I read the Bible when I was, 29.
Okay.
I'm raised Jewish.
Got you.
Jews don't really talk about Jesus.
It's a different perspective.
It's a different. I like how you put it. But because I know it so well now, it's interesting to see it play out.
Yeah.
Have you just side note before their food is great, by the way.
Thank you.
There's a book series called Gene Edwards, A Tale of Three Kings, Prisoner in a Third Cell. He does this fictionized perspective of what John the Baptist went through or King David went through. But it's
David's second best story in the Bible.
When I say, I promise you these books are 2-3 hour reads, but you will read them and you will be it just, I don't know, it gives you a feeling of kind of their emotional, what they were processing in their feelings. That I think the Bible does a really good job, but I think to carry the weight of being Jesus' cousin and knowing he's healing people and you about to get your head chopped off, to kind of go through that feeling and those motions or whatever. Anyways, watching the King David, the Kings movie, I did feel it's interesting after reading the Bible to see these different perspectives. But I did think about the Gene Edwards series a lot while I was watching the movie. Damn, I would love to see them do a movie based on the Gene Edwards series.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the religious movies are hit or miss for me, but they're always fascinating. I think part of the beauty of religion and faith is it is so personal, it is subjective as far as your walk with God. I can't judge somebody else.
No. But sitting here with you, I just got an idea. I was we should totally do a Gene Edwards series. You should read the book.
I should, yeah.
Read the books. I'll order them and Amazon them to you or whatever. And then since you're into media, you could be yo, I think we should do this project. Because there are so many, projects that are kind of, off. You look at the Chronicles of Narnia and all of those guys.
100%.
They do these perspectives. But I if you read the Gene Edwards books, to me, I just feel it just captures, a whole different embodiment of, you could, kind of walk with them. Damn, that is a difficult situation to be in, you know?
That's why, the story of David to me is just, it's fascinating. The Bible is far from boring. It's got some of the the messiest characters. It's got some of the
The first time I read it, I was they was what's in there? I said incest, rape, murder. There's a lot of crazy stuff.
It's got the gambit as far as the darkest parts of humanity, but also the best parts of God. Yeah.
Your food is delicious. I see you could cook. And I was watching you salt. And I was we gonna see. It came out good.
It's gonna be seasoned, absolutely. I grew up watching the best in my mother.
Yeah. So from an outsider looking in, you would assume that based on everything you've said, you would be looking towards going into the NFL.
Definitely. But
then you read your resume and there's a pivot in there. So I want to know what's going on.
Yeah, so now I work in finance. I work at a pension endowment fund. called University of California Investments. And
what's a pension endowment
so
fund?
When you think about 401ks, it's not just a magical black box that you're putting a piece of your paycheck into.
That's literally what I think when I hear 401k.
So there's somebody managing that account, and that's what a pension is. We manage on behalf of University of California Office of the President, and also, all of our pensioners, which are primarily University of California employees.
Does that mean you decide where that money is invested, like what stocks and bonds or?
Precisely. So they're entrusting, our team with creating returns and protecting that wealth, and then also providing, money to the schools whenever they need it.
Now, what made you get into that line of work?
I met our chief investment officer a few years ago speaking at an event. I think he was the keynote. I was one of the panels. And I was just like, what is University of California Investments? I didn't even really know about it. I think I had some good business acumen. I've invested almost all the dollars that I've made from NIL.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You didn't buy like a bunch of Jordans with it?
No. I mean, we're at Jordan School, so I got some free ones. Yeah. Yeah, thank God.
But I meant like you didn't blow any of it on anything?
So when I got to school, I sort of set my spending habits. I lived off of, and, I hate asking anybody for money. So like, I just lived off of the money I was getting from the school, off of my scholarship, our cost of living, and then our rent was paid for, all of that. So I just continued that, all the way through my career. And I sort of looked at my NIL money as surplus. I'll give away, a portion of it, and then the rest I'm investing for the future.
And did you invest with this firm or?
No. So I invested, personally, just within, a regular brokerage account.
Okay. So did you learn that early on? Stocks and all that?
I'd say early on compared to most. I've been investing since I started making money.
But you started making later.
Yeah, probably in 20. I wasn't investing as a kid. I didn't have money as a kid.
But where did you learn how to invest from?
Really from experience, and then my father. He's always had a brokerage account, and then he was just telling me the money that I earn now, like I should invest it. Just because the earlier you invest, that multiple just continues to accrue. It's like having my own personal sort of retirement or down payment for a house or rainy day fund. I really look at it as my primary savings account.
Oh, I like that. So where did the pivot from the NFL, your trajectories to say, I don't know if I want to do the NFL anymore? Yeah,
so, early on in my career at UCLA, I played more, and I played really well, especially in the 2020 season. But over the course of my career, depending on whether it be, injuries or more pertinent, just coaching decisions, I sort of saw, like, if I wanted to play, I was going to have to transfer. Like, if I wanted to play, the amount of time I wanted to play, I was going to have to transfer. And that was something that was weighing on my mind. But I also saw, the upside on what I was doing on the media side, the upside in being LA on the sports media side. And then, started to build that relationship with University of California and felt like I was really building a professional home for myself. All that being said, I think if I was, chasing the dream 100%, I probably would have transferred. But I'm not happy. I mean, I'm not, unhappy with how it turned out. Like, I'm very grateful. I still have my health.
Yeah.
I have my mind, my capability of thinking, and those are things you really can't take for granted when it comes to, everything that football has done for me.
Yeah, I think as a mom and a woman, my fear would be if, like, my son went into football. Because I did you ever watch the Netflix documentary? It was, like, on, I think, football players and their money. And
yeah, I mean,
I was like, geez, what? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, I think my mother probably was praying over me every single play. It's
So she did talk about it a little bit?
100%. And, that'll be a conversation for my mother, my father, and my little brother, just because he's getting to the age where he'll probably start playing tackle football, more regularly.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like in the back of my mind as mom, that's be like of all dreams.
100%. I mean, and like I know the amount of injuries. I know the amount of, like, just being hurt, whether it be emotionally, like, just spiritually drained, and then especially physically. Like, it's a culture where you got to play through it. And I think that's a skill set, 100%. But I also think, as a parent, you may think twice as far as, pushing a child into that. I don't have kids, so I don't really know my perspective on that. But I know watching my brother out there play, I will definitely, be hoping, each play he just gets up the same way that he started that play, because that's sometimes.
So that's a thought even when you're watching him?
100%. For myself,
you're like, eh.
I mean, yeah, it's like I've definitely had my bell rung. I've definitely been hit, and it's like next week you're not seeing the same way out your left eye.
Oh, shit.
But it's also myself. Like I it's something that I love and something that I accept the risk doing it. But when it's somebody else that you love, there's sort of a different aspect included.
So what's the end goal?
So if I were to say what I want to really do in generalized terms is build generational wealth early. I think
like that.
There's a lot of work that's gone in for generations and generations to get me to where I'm at now. And God has, done all the heavy lifting. I think it's really just about taking advantage of opportunities now. So continuing to learn, continue to recognize my weakness and play to my strengths. And then, go into public service and philanthropy, whether it be, holding elected office one day. I just want to be able to affect change with a platform that I've been afforded. And, as I accrue more and more wealth, I can be better in my scale as far as philanthropy, and then do all of that while maintaining my faith. If I do that, I know, whatever sort of struggles or whatever is next for me, whether, it be a future family or things like that, I'll be, well prepared for that.
Are you super goal-oriented at home?
So I think my parents set a lot of goals for their children, and I think every good parent should. For me, I'm not the biggest planner. I'm more, evaluate what the opportunity is and just work the best at that. Something good will come out of that. That's sort of where my trust in God comes. Just because I feel like saying how things are going to be 5 years from now is vain.
Is vain?
Yeah. You don't know as a person. You don't know as a person. If
but what about like a year out? A year out.
Well, I mean, I think setting goals is definitely good. And I think for me, my goal is just each and every day, like what's on the calendar. All right, I'm going to be so good on this. Like that's sort of how my mindset is. And, I'll look down the calendar a little bit, but part of being really busy is you got to take it day by day. Because if you have 4 or 5 meetings, 3 of them are 3 completely different things. You have to be able to sort of disassociate and lock back in on certain things. You can't be thinking about what's happening down the line. When you're there, you'll be prepared for it.
Yeah. I find myself counting hours.
Okay.
Like if you're ever hanging out with me, you'll see me go. And you'll be like, what are you doing?
Right.
And I'll be like, I'm counting hours.
So you're
because I
mindful of your
count.
time.
Yeah, I'm constantly counting. Like, how long does it take to my girlfriends? We went to a birthday dinner, and one of my friends was like, "What is something that you've done that you'd be proud of?" I was like, I have no idea. I'm thankful for my friends. And they were like, yo, your time management is impeccable. And I was like, time management? And then I started thinking, and my dad was like, yo, nobody, you call it 4:02, and you say, where are you going to be at 4:03 tomorrow? And she'll know exactly where and how long it takes. And I didn't know. I've become like anally obsessed over how long, down to...
Yeah, I think... that's the coolest part about, sports is like you have to be regimented by nature. I've been, doing 14-hour work days between sports and school since I was...
14 hours, geez.
Since I was like 6 or 7. I would go to school, then I would train after, then homework. It's like by then you did a 12-hour work day and you're 7.
Yeah. Because that was going to be my next question is like, what's a day in the life of you right now?
Yeah. So for now, like I always try to start my mornings, start it out immediately with prayer. And then, some type of music. I love sending verses out to people, so I always send it. There's a small group of people I send it daily. Yeah, I'm one of those.
I get friends that do the DMs. That are 10 pages long.
I'm not blowing up inboxes. It'll be just 1 or 2, quick verses.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really whatever verse I was gonna read, I'll just share with other people, and there's some folks that really enjoy that. And then after that, I try to get a workout in. Whether it be running or lifting.
And how long is that? Like an hour?
Yeah, I keep it to 30 minutes.
30 minutes?
Yeah, I'm past.
I like your style.
I'm past. I'm past the 2.5 hour workout blocks of football. I'm not trying to impress anybody.
So just 30 minutes.
Yeah,
I
I start out with some cardio, then do 3 or 4 core lifts, and then finish with some cardio. And then I'm in and out, and then I'll tend to have like my first meeting around like 10 or 11, and then I'll do a few meetings, and I take an hour for lunch, maybe practice on either do music or practice on a skill set. And then, I'll have my afternoon meetings, which is normally like 1 or 2, especially since we're on the West Coast. A lot of the meetings are in the morning because that's early afternoon for New York and abroad.
Okay.
Well,
I like that. And then the weekends are off?
Yeah. Honestly, for weekends, I spend a lot of time on music. That's sort of like my recharge time. Even during football, like when we were out of season, that would be when I'd go to the studio, like because studio sessions go from like.
Yeah, and they never have windows. You ever notice
that?
They never have windows. Yeah. You walk outside, you be like, oh, it's like my goodness.
It's like the casino.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't want you to know it's daytime.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with me today and feeding me. Truly an honor to sit with you.
No, I really enjoyed it. I appreciate it. The food was good. Appreciate the ingredients. Yeah. Camera crew was good, and I look forward to watching this. Send it to my fam.
You better. The parents. Shout outs to the parents, man. Really, really thankful for all the work you did with Chase.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Peace out, guys.
Peace.